Have you ever stopped to wonder what's really running the show inside your body? I mean, beyond your conscious thoughts. There's this incredibly powerful, totally invisible system that's pulling all the strings. It's dictating your mood, your energy, even how you react in a crisis. So let's pull back the curtain and take a look at this master control system.
So what is this hidden network, really? It's not some kind of magic, I promise. It's actually a beautifully complex web of chemical messengers, and they are constantly, tirelessly, coordinating everything your body does, from the second you wake up until you're deep asleep. You see, your body basically has two main communication systems. You've got the neural system, which is just lightning fast. Think of it like sending an instant message. Point A to point B, done. But the endocrine system, the one we're diving into today, it's different. It's more like a broadcast message. It sends chemical signals out through the bloodstream to regulate things over a much longer period. It's kind of like the marathon runner to the nervous system sprinter. Both are crucial, but they operate on totally different timelines.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of this incredible chemical network. What exactly are these messages, and who's sending them?
Well, the messages are called hormones. Now here's the most important thing to get from this definition. Hormones are non-nutrient chemicals. That means they're not fuel. They're not energy for your body. They are pure, unadulterated information. They're these super powerful messengers sent between cells, and get this, they're produced in unbelievably tiny amounts, and yet they can have these absolutely profound effects on everything from your mood to your growth. A little goes a very, very long way.
And here they are, the broadcasters themselves, the major endocrine glands. Think of this as our map for today's little tour. We've got glands up in the brain, in the neck, sitting on top of the kidneys. They're all over the place. And each one has a very specific, very important job in this huge, coordinated effort. So let's see how this whole operation works. We're going to start right at the top of the chain of command, the brain's very own hormone headquarters.
Right here, we have the ultimate power duo, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. Honestly, the best way to think about them is like the leadership of a big company. The hypothalamus, that's the CEO. It makes all the big strategic decisions. It then passes down its orders to the pituitary gland, which is like the general manager, the one who actually carries out the orders and directs all the other glands in the body to get the job done.
So how does the CEO give its orders? It's actually a surprisingly simple system. It's basically just go and stop. The hypothalamus makes what are called releasing hormones, which tell the pituitary, hey, go ahead and secrete this hormone. And then it makes inhibiting hormones, which say, okay, that's enough, stop. It's this constant, delicate balancing act. And believe me, that tight regulation is absolutely crucial. So let's just imagine for a second. What happens if that stop signal for something as powerful as, say, growth hormone just doesn't work right? What if the pituitary gland just keeps pumping it out with no off switch? Well, the results can be really dramatic. In children, if you have that oversecretion, it leads to gigantism. In adults, where your bones have already fused, it causes a condition called acromegaly, which can lead to some really severe health issues. So yeah, that balance between go and stop isn't just important, it's essential for a normal, healthy life.
Okay, so let's move down from the main command center and look at some of the glands that are managing our day-to-day existence. Our rhythms, our energy levels, all that good stuff. First up is the pineal gland. This tiny little gland deep in your brain has a massive job. It's basically your body's internal clock. Its main gig is secreting melatonin. Yeah, that stuff you see in the supplement aisle. Melatonin is the hormone that helps regulate your 24-hour or diurnal sleep-wake cycle. So when it gets dark outside, your melatonin levels rise, and that's what makes you start to feel sleepy.
All right, next we're going to travel down to the neck. Here we find the thyroid gland, this little butterfly-shaped organ that's wrapped right around your windpipe. It is a major, major player in managing your body's entire energy budget.
The thyroid's main hormone is called thyroxine, and you can think of this hormone as your body's metabolism dial. It literally controls your basal metabolic rate, which is just a fancy way of saying how quickly your cells burn through energy just to keep you alive. And this really shows you how interconnected this whole system is. If that dial is set too high or too low, it doesn't just mess with your weight, it can impact everything from your body temperature to your mood.
All right, let's switch gears a bit. What happens when your body faces a sudden threat? Intense stress. That is when the emergency response team gets called into action.
And for that, meet the adrenal glands. They're perched like little hats right on top of your kidneys. Think of these as your body's first responders. In an emergency, the inner part, the adrenal medulla, unleashes those famous fight-or-flight hormones. And we all know what that feels like, right? The adrenaline rush. When that stuff hits your system, everything kicks into high gear. Your heart starts pounding, your breathing gets faster, your senses become razor sharp, your pupils widen to let in more light, and your body dumps a ton of glucose into your blood for instant fuel. You are primed and ready for action.
Now, beyond just daily rhythms and emergencies, the endocrine system also has to manage all the long-term projects, things like managing your fuel supply, overseeing your growth, and regulating reproduction.
The pancreas is your body's ultimate fuel manager. It works around the clock to keep your blood sugar levels perfectly stable. And it does this with two hormones that have opposite jobs. After you eat, beta cells release insulin, which basically tells your body's cells to take up glucose from the blood, which lowers your blood sugar. But if your blood sugar drops too low, alpha cells release glucagon, which tells your liver to release its stored glucose, raising it back up. It is a perfect push and pull system.
And then, of course, we have the gonads, which are in charge of reproduction, though they still take their orders from the pituitary gland up in the brain. In males, the testes produce androgens like testosterone, which drives the development of male characteristics in sperm production. And in females, the ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone, the key hormones for regulating the menstrual cycle and supporting a pregnancy.
So we've seen who sends the messages, and we've seen what those messages say. But how does a hormone, just floating around in the blood, know exactly which cells to talk to? How does it find its target? Well, it all comes down to a kind of secret handshake. See, hormones can only affect their specific target cells, and that's because those cells have receptors that are a perfect fit for them, like a lock and key. This happens in two main ways. Some hormones, like proteins, bind to receptors on the outside of the cell. It's like they're knocking on the door. But other hormones, like steroids, are special. They can pass right through the cell membrane and bind to receptors that are waiting for them inside. They don't need to knock, they just walk right in.
So when you boil it all down, it's this crucial four-step process. 1. A hormone travels through the blood. 2. It finds and binds to its specific receptor on or inside a target cell. 3. That hormone receptor complex triggers a change inside the cell. And 4. The cell carries out its new instructions, whether that's to speed up metabolism, or to grow, or to release yet another hormone. It's that simple and that complex.
You know, from the single thought that makes your heart race to the slow, steady rhythm of your metabolism, this incredibly intricate and totally silent chemical conversation is happening inside you at every single moment. It's a constant, invisible network that really defines so much of who we are. So just think about it for a second. What message is your body sending right now?